Okay, so on the back of my dodgy titanium video, I decided I'm going to try and make something out of what's left. And this is all that's left. It's about, I don't know, 4.5 inches, something like that. So we're going to see if we can draw it out into a bar, and I'm going to make a horseshoe out of it. It's a shame I haven't got enough for two, but I'm just quite excited to see what it'll turn out like. Got my decent hammer. I actually finally got myself a cross pane, and it was dirt cheap. I can't remember where I got it from. I think it was on Amazon or something or other. Really, really cheap, but pretty good. So get it nice and warm, and I don't know if you'll be able to tell really, but what I said in my other video, it's so soft. It's really, compared with mild steel, it's so soft to move, and I don't know if you can hear it. It's dull, real dull sound. Very, very odd stuff to work with. Now I think that I discovered from my previous video, there's nothing wrong with this at all. It is just the characteristics of this particular grade. I'm just going to turn it around and do the other end now. I'll put the grade in the description. I can't remember off the top of my head what it was. I know it was grade 5, but it had letters after it. And I think it is just, as I say, the characteristics of this particular alloy of titanium that is very soft to work at quite a low temperature really, because this is only just over sort of bright orange. It's not, you know, almost white like some people say you need to get it, and it's moving ever so easy, and even as it gets cold it still moves. I don't want to move it too cold because I don't want to get any, or risk getting any fractures or cracks, but as you can see it's pretty dull red there, and it's still moving quite easily. But as it heats up quite quickly, it also cools down quite quickly. I'll just stick it back in again. This is probably going to become quite boring for you, but I also need to get some slightly smaller tongs now. Go from the hollow bits to something that will hold some flat. There we go, those will probably do. I say, this really heats up pretty quickly. I just can't get over how soft it is. It's the only word for it. It's soft, pliable, malleable. I suppose there are other words for it, but it's yes, weird stuff. Very weird stuff. I'm just going to get that other end warm again. I'm trying to do each end in turn to try and make sure we get an even draw. I'm aiming for around about, I suppose, 5/8 by 5/16, something like that. That's the sort of profile I'm looking for. That'll make quite a nice little shoe. So I don't think this is going to get very long. So I'm really not having to put much effort into this at all. It's quite nice in a way to work. It's getting there, because you know, you don't have to put much effort into it. Try another set of tongs because that's getting a bit big now. Those, no, they're too big. Yep, they'll do. And I dare say if you did put a lot of effort into it, you would deform it in such a way that you might start to get cracks and creases and things that you didn't really want. So you've got to judge your hammer blows for the material, and it's just weird, you know, it really is. You can see there how light blows are just deforming it really quite well. When you do give it a little bit of, give it some beans, as I like to say, it moves pretty easily. It gives off a weird dust. It's not a scale, it's there, it's that dust. It's not particularly nice, it's giving me a bit of a metallic taste in my mouth. It's a weird stuff. You can see it sort of, as it starts to get colder, you can see it coming off. Well, you can see it there even, sort of little clouds of it, little puffs of it. I dare say if you use this all the time, you'd get used to its characteristics and, you know, how hard to hit it and all the rest of it, and it would be quite a nice item to work with. But as a one-off, it's pretty peculiar. There's that dust again. It doesn't take all that long to heat up, so I'll just twiddle my thumbs for a second or two. We're getting there. Almost there, I think. Won't be that far off. This hammer I'm using, I think it's a kilo. So it's what, about 2.2 pounds. It's a really quite a nice hammer to use. Whereas I normally use my rounding hammer for most stuff, or my assortment of club hammers. I've got a big one and a medium one, that's a 2.2 as well. I just thought I'd try out my new hammer. Right, this is a fullering tool for putting the groove in the shoes. I might try and do a handful of shoe, and basically all you do is you just run it down the shoe with a rocking motion as you hit it, and it puts in the groove. As you can see from the state of it, I haven't used it for many years. It's a little bit on the rusty side, but I might do it. We'll have a little think about that. Must be getting somewhere near. I'll have to give it a measure in a second and see how long we've got as to whether it'll make a decent sized shoe. I really wish I hadn't noticed that my fly button was open. It's going to draw my eye to it now, and no doubt yours now, I've told you. Right, so I've given it a quick measure. It's got to about 10.5 inches, and that's, I'm going to call it a day. I've put a little centre dot in the middle, so I'm going to get it warm and turn it like a normal shoe. Give it a go, as they say. I hardly make any shoes at all these days. I don't do any competitions, never have done. Can't see the point personally. What am I looking for? Yeah, the fullering. I've decided against it. I haven't done it for so long, which is what I was saying, I haven't made shoes, that I don't want to risk messing it up because it's the only bit of titanium I've got. So I'm going to leave it plain, and also I think it'll look better when it's shined up, polished up, just plain stamp. When it's polished and had the colours put in, I think the groove might detract from it a little bit. So I'm going to chicken out on that and just do plain stamp. Alright, got it warm, and that's literally just above sort of orange, and you can see I'm hardly having to hit it. Those of you who do shoe or make shoes, I've got quite a few, from what I can gather, quite a few Farriers actually watch my channel, God knows why. There you go, and you can see how softly I'm hitting that. If I was making a shoe out of steel, I'd have to give it a little bit more than that. Alright, so I've got my stamp and Pritchel. Normally I would have put the first two nail holes in the toe on that first heat, but because I don't know the characteristics of this material, I'm doing it in a second heat. But normally what would happen, you turn the toe and then put in your two toenails, and that's really weird. That's feels peculiar when you're used to the sort of feeling of hammering into a bit of steel. When you're hammering into something that's not, it's really odd. Very odd. It's difficult to describe. It's like you're used to something and then it just suddenly isn't. It's very, very odd. But I say, I'm sure if you did it a lot, you'd get used to it. But it's just really bizarre. Very bizarre. Nearly there. So it doesn't take long to get up to a decent temperature. Make the heel. Knock on the branch. And so I'm watching this now doing the voiceover, and I can see that I'm putting no effort into that whatsoever, and it's just odd, very odd. Again, I'm just marking those holes. I would normally do them in one go, but I say because this is all new and it's unknown territory and it's the only bit I've got, I don't want to muck it up, so I'm erring on the side of caution. If I took this long to make a shoe, I would have been out of a job by now. But hey ho, this is YouTube, this is entertainment. This isn't trying to make a living out of this. This is a bit of fun. You know, I've had a lot of people say about when I put on my last video about the titanium. Why would you want to make anything out of titanium? It's not this, it's not that. Steel's far better for this, that, and the other. Blah blah blah. It's a bit of fun. Christ, you get fed up doing the same old boring stuff. It's just doing something different. Right, so there's the. I'm only putting 6 holes in this because it's quite a little shoe. So I'm going to get it all hot and stamp the holes in properly. There's that dust again. It's weird stuff. It's horrible. It's really giving me a nasty taste in the back of my throat and a metallic flavour in my mouth. I think if I was to do this all the time using this stuff, I'd have better ventilation or wear a mask. Right, that is so soft. It's weird. You get to know how many taps you should use to put a hole in, and when you do it, and it's way too many. pritchel out the bottoms. What that does is just punches out the last little tiny rectangles out the bottom of the hole. The stamp marks the holes and makes the holes. And the pritchel just punches the last little piece out. Right, get it warm, do the other side. When I was at college, my master at college, or one of the masters at college, he always wore highly polished leather Chelsea boots in brown, brogues of course, and he always used to brag about how many little of those pieces he got stuck to the bottom of his boot. That was apparently a mark of doing it right, because they land on the floor by your feet and you tread on them while they were hot. And as you'll see here, a couple of them haven't actually dropped out, so I'm just trying to get them off because I don't want to forge them back into the material, because then eventually once it's cool they drop out and you're left with little rectangular dents in the bottom of your material. If your stamp and your pritchel are perfectly right, those things should drop out. So there we go, basically it. That's my shoe. I'm not going to bother trying to clip it because I'll just mess that up. As I say, it's the only bit I've got, so I'm just going to try and clean it up now before I polish it. Alright, so I've just literally cooled it out, dried it off, and you can, well, I think you can see in this light, it's got like this browny, I can't really call it a scale, it's sort of almost a stain on it. It's pretty light and it's all over this sort of stain, and I guess that is the scale. People say about how difficult it is to get the scale off, so we're going to give it a go. So I've got a, I think it's a 36 grit ceramic belt here, and for all of those who thought, oh, perhaps you haven't actually got titanium, maybe it's something else on my last video, there's your proof, your white sparks. You know, all I was trying to ascertain in the last video was not is it titanium, it's what type of titanium. And as I say, I'm going to put my mask on because the fumes were bad enough when I was forging it, but now I'm grinding it, they're particularly bad. So I'm just going to put that on. So yeah, as I was saying, it wasn't a case of is it titanium, it was a case of what type of titanium, what grade, because what I had seen, which is what I was expecting, was a man forged a blade sort of shape out of a bit of titanium, stuck it in his vise, laid into it with a big hammer. It didn't bend, buckle or do anything, so then he laid into it with a sledgehammer and it still didn't bend or buckle, it just bounced off. And actually, if you're interested in seeing that video, I'll put the link in the description, because I was just gobsmacked. And I've watched the video and read all the comments, and he says he doesn't know what grade titanium it is, but from where he gets it, he's guessing it's a medical grade. So whether that's grade 7 or what it is, I have no idea, but blimey, it was tough, and that is what I was expecting with this. You know, I saw him trying to hammer it and it looked hard, and then when he hit with the sledgehammer, that was something else. So when I got this, warmed it up and hit it and it was like butter, I was slightly at odds. I wasn't sure what was going on. Got myself a push stick, bit of a broom handle, because it's getting a bit warm. Now, I'm basically at the moment all I'm trying to do is get the scale off. I want to get the scale off so I can try and get some sort of a polish on it. I don't think I'm going to be able to polish this up like bright polish like I did with the spoon, but I want to get it polished enough so that I can colour it. That's basically what all I want to try and do is get the colours in. I do love those sparks. Something special about that. Just cool it out. It's getting a bit warm now. Whoever said that getting the scale off was hard was dead right. It is a swine. It really doesn't want to come off. I'm wondering if it might be an idea to try getting it off when it's hot. It might come off better when it's hot. So if I ever get myself another bit, you can see there I've got some of it off, but there's still quite a bit left. Yeah, if I ever get another bit, I might try doing it, descaling it hot. And funnily enough, this is, I've discovered, I've tried all sorts of different belts and discs, and you can see there's a sort of a fibre disc in the middle there. I've tried a ceramic flat disc, I've tried an ordinary flat disc. And the one that's doing the best at the moment is this. It's just a purely ordinary, bog standard, I think it's zirconium sanding disc. One of those thin things you put on with a backing plate. And that seems to be doing the trick at the moment. It's just made a funny noise, so I wonder if it's coming loose, but it's not. I think it's just catching the guard. But that is taking more off than the ceramic belt did. I don't know if it's because it conforms more to the shape of the shoe and it's getting into the scale. I don't know. Anyway, it's working. Oh, it's a bit warm. Woo! Alright, that's, I don't know if you can see it. Yeah, you can see there, that's taken the majority off. So I'm just going to go and give it a quick buff up and see what we come up with. Right, I've spent 10 or 15 minutes on the buffing wheel and it's still not anywhere near shiny, but it's shiny enough for me to put a bit of colour in it, which is basically what I want to do. So that's the next job. Let's get the torch out and try and get some heat into it. Now, I don't know which is best, whether to do it sort of gradually with a lower heat, like a little, like your map torch, or like this with quite a vicious torch. It seems to go quite nicely with this torch because you get sort of like a direct what's the word, you know, a focused, that's the word I was looking for, a focused heat rather than a broad heat. I dare say there's other ways of doing this, but you can see it's working. The unusual thing about titanium, which I'm hoping that I'm going to be able to show you, is you get a green colour come through. I don't know of any other metals where you get green come through in heat treating, where you can watch the colours flow and get a green. But this one you can, and that's another sign that it's titanium. If you get your green coming through, I don't know if you can see that, it's well, yes, sort of. It's got greens and no, it's not greens, but it's blues and browns and purples. I haven't actually got a green yet. I'm not sure if I need to heat it more to get the green. I'll give it a little play and see what happens. I'm going to try it on the toe, see if we can get some green coming up. Give it a real good heat on there. You can see it going brown and purple and blue almost instantly. I'm just watching to see if the colours are coming through. A bit more. Yeah, there we go. You have to watch the colours because they do bleed through. You know, even once you've taken the heat away, the colours continue to come. So if you haven't got it straight away, don't panic. Just watch for a second or two, because sometimes they do just appear. I don't know if you'll be able to see any of this. Well, you can see some pretty colours, but I don't think you can actually see the green there. But there is some green in the toe. Right, let's see if this camera will pick this up. Not very well. But you can see all of the obvious colours, the pinks and the purples and the browns and blues and all the rest of it. But there is actually some green. There's 2 lines of green, one each side of the toe, which doesn't really show up very well there. But there you go. Titanium shoe. Shame I didn't have a pair. I could have put them on a pony. Thanks for watching. Catch you on the next one.